Welcome in,
Amen.
everybody, to another MLS Monday by Scarves and Spikes. How we all doing?
Well, doing good. How are you, Henry? How are you doing?
I'm great, man. It's a wonderful Monday. I was trying to find a word that started with M for Monday, but a
Magnificent.
marvelous, magnificent
Marvelous.
Monday. There we go.
Magnanimous.
We got
You
there.
have a few options there.
Magnanimous is a good one. I like that.
Messy Monday. No, I'm just
That's
kidding.
usually
Get
where
out. Get out. Boot
no
him out.
messy Monday, no messy Sunday.
No messy Monday,
Doesn't
no
matter.
messy Sunday, but we'll jump into that. How was y'all's weekend?
It was good. Obviously, we're at Atlanta versus Charlotte. I was there. Jackson was there. You guys were, of course, holding down the fort in the ATL. But I had a good weekend. Kind of felt like a busy weekend, but glad to get back behind the mic again to talk about some MLS. I know we got a lot to talk about. We had kind of joked about the Messi thing. More red card controversy surrounding Miami, Inter Miami, and we'll get into that and much more here in a little bit.
It keeps happening with Miami.
Keeps happening.
They figure out a way to get involved in some shenanigans. So yeah, talking about Miami and Houston, the Sunday night soccer match of the week. We're going to talk about Chiqui Lozano. We're going to talk about Ty Brebo, Cincinnati, Seattle, RSL. You guys see the list on the left. We're
got
going
a lot going on.
Lots and lots going on. And then we will give you guys our matches to watch for Match Day 3 presented by Sweetwater Brewery. Speaking of Sweetwater Brewery, the official partner for Scarves and Spikes going forward in 2025. So if you guys haven't tried a Rowdy Peach IPA, go get you one, or a 6-pack, or a 12-pack, because they're very, very good.
Drink responsibly, of course.
Yeah, don't drink and drive.
By the way, also scarvesandspikes.com for our Atlanta United coverage. If you're a YouTube watcher, YouTube viewer, like, subscribe, share our content. Helps us out a lot. We say that all the time, but it truly does help us out as we look to expand and grow. Patreon.com/Scarves and Spikes. If you want to get involved there, 3 tiers, $1.17 a month, $5, $10 a month. Guys, consider Discord. A lot going on in our Discord, as you all know. So, plenty of ways to support us, plenty of ways to back everything we do here at Scarves and Spikes. Of course, we're on social. So, check us out there. Check us out on social. Scarves and Spikes. Search for us. You'll be able to find us.
Yes, indeedy. All right. So, let's dive into it. We have, as y'all alluded to, Miami, Houston, Sunday night soccer. And Messi was not there. Messi didn't travel.
Didn't matter.
Load management, but it didn't matter. Obviously, the red card at the end and the tussle and all that is what the kind of the bigger story was, besides the fact that they just flat out curb stomped Houston. But
so, real quick,
what about that game stood out to y'all?
Well, real quick, let me ask you guys. Let's start with the red card on Ian Frey. I've seen it back, and there's been some speculation that he may have said something that the referee didn't agree with. I mean, what do you guys think? You saw it, I'm sure. Red card, no red card for Ian Frey?
I mean, personally, me just watching the video, I didn't really see grounds for a red card. I mean, the game was over. It looks like they were like exchanging words, like something was going on there. But I'm not sure if it was enough for a red card unless something was said.
It must have been agreed as if it was.
Yeah, like I don't know if he said something either like really, really, really bad to the player or just something to the ref that he shouldn't have. But to get like a red card, I would expect that to be appealed because I wasn't expecting like that red card made no sense to me. Just looking at the video and purely seeing like the contact and all that, I didn't really even see where he actually like grabbed the guy's neck. Like I couldn't really see that clearly from the video. But we'll see what happens with that. I expect that to be overturned unless like I said, there's something that we don't know that happened in that moment to cause that. But the gesture from the referee and like the explanation that we've been getting is that he got the red because he put his hands on the other guy's neck.
Yeah. And from an admin standpoint, and real quick, Tyler, before you jump in, from an admin standpoint, that doesn't carry over to Champions Cup. They play Cavalier on Thursday, so he will be available for that. But as it stands now, won't be available for selection for Sunday's match against Charlotte FC. So just wanted to clean that up just real quick, Tyler, before you jumped in.
Yeah, no, that's a good point because I think, fans kind of have to understand like the competitions are different. Rules are somewhat different. but yeah, cards don't
Right.
necessarily carry over between. Anyway, I see in the chat like Omar saying he grabbed him by the throat for a second. It wasn't easy to see. Dan saying it was allegedly the hand placement. I'll caveat by saying this. I haven't gone through it with a fine tooth comb, but I've watched the replays a couple times, different angles and all that. I don't see the red card.
Me neither.
I think you have a guy who grabs you first. It reminds me of the Joseph and who was it up in, I think, Montreal a couple of years ago? Wanyama. Yeah.
Yeah.
That one was like both, hands to the throat. It was very obvious. Like they both got 8 sent off. That makes sense to me. This, in that case, though, that was even though Joseph got sent off, Wanyama was the one that went after Joseph, but then he retaliated, both hands to the throat. This one was more Houston going after Ian Frey and grabs him. And then you see Ian Frey essentially trying to defend himself. And I get it.
Yeah.
Like defending yourself isn't whatever. But I just didn't see enough of the hand to the throat. Maybe like right here, top of the chest kind of deal. Maybe.
Yeah.
So if that was the reason, I don't agree with it. Now, if there was something that was said, if he said some magical words to
like
the ref,
a racial slur or something like that,
like
or
something
something
crazy,
vicious to the ref,
then
like,
that makes sense. But
and I don't think it would be like a racial thing, like a homophobic thing, anything like that, because I feel like we would have heard about that already from Pro.
No, and the ref was just gesturing also. He did this when he gave the red card, which signals that it was the hand placement. But my thing is, if you're gonna give Ian Frey the red card, then you should give the other guy the red card too, because he provoked the incident.
Exactly.
That's the thing. Call it both ways if you're gonna call it, and that's what we've talked about. I mean, Tyler, you've mentioned it numerous times. Vashanov saying in the chat, Alba appeared to have his foot stomped earlier in the match, and nothing was given. I want to say it was a yellow or something like that. I could be wrong.
I don't think anything happened with that one. I don't think it was a card at all.
In fairness, I was looking at the replay, and it looked like Alba was maybe play acting just a little bit. There might have been. But even if he was, I mean, it doesn't look good for the player. I don't remember who it was, but it doesn't look good for the player who did it or who appeared to do it. But I think Houston fans will be a little bit hard done by the lack of call and their perception against or what happens is Jordi Alba. I will say that last stoppage time sequence, probably the most fight he's showed the whole night, because we mentioned 4-1 in front of their home fans against Inter Miami, against a team without Lionel Messi. But Suarez, of course, stepped in and really paced the attack there. And Segovia, who has had a tremendous start to the season, 3 goals in 2 matches in MLS play. Matt Doyle said this is a better Miami team than last year. What do you guys think? I mean, that's scary to think about, but how do you guys feel about this assessment?
I'm not sold on that yet.
Too early to tell, or
go ahead, Henry.
The early signs are very good for them. I'll say that right now. So far, Tadeo Allende and Telasco Segovia have been really, really good in the attack. This new kind of front three that they have. When you have Messi, it's Allende, Suarez, Messi. When you don't have Messi, it's Allende, Suarez, Segovia, like we just saw. Either way, they're really solid because they can attack really well and they can hit you really, really fast. And that was really a lot of their goals, was going quickly and turning your defense into attack and moving the ball forward. Because what they have in Tadeo Allende, for example, is a guy that is crazy fast. That guy will beat pretty much anyone in a foot race except for, I don't know, the Roadrunner. But no, seriously, I'd love to see that foot race. But
we might in a few weeks.
Yeah, but going back to the point, they've got some firepower. And Allende seems like a very good replacement for Diego Gomez. So I might actually agree that this is a better Miami than last season's. And this is me being a little bold because it's still early season. There's only been 2 games, not a really good sample size. But the early indications are there. And I had tons of fun watching that game because it was just beautiful soccer. And there was no Messi. So imagine with Messi there, what can happen. And it's good for them too, because Messi is going to be missing he's probably getting called up for Argentina for their national team. They're in the middle of World Cup qualifiers. So you're going to miss him a few times. And like we saw, like this was match day 2, and we were already in load management. So I imagine later on in the season, that's going to be a point again. And he's probably not going to play every MLS game for you. And that's fine, it seems, because you've got enough players to make that up.
Yeah. I think Mascherano, if he does anything to set himself apart from all the criticism that has been pushed to him already for being essentially Messi's friend, it's going to be how he handles, or how Messi himself handles, and Mascherano gets the credit for it, his load management and everybody's load management to battle through Champions Cup and everything else that they've got going on. Because I think that was a lot of what happened last year. And we called it at the beginning of the season. We said that these older legs are going to catch up.
No.
But I'm not ready to say that they're better yet. They played a Houston Dynamo team that hasn't looked good at all, in my opinion. And you had, Suarez doing what Suarez does. And I think sometimes maybe it is easy for people outside of Miami to get so caught up in the Messi craze that when Messi doesn't play, everybody thinks that like it's just such an amazing thing that Miami still found a way to win. But they have Luis Suarez and Jordi Alba, and they've got young talent that's really good, admittedly. And I mean, like Gonzo in the chat said, defensively Miami's better. I'm not saying that's not true or true. I just haven't seen enough yet to determine that, because they haven't really played teams that have that kind of attacking presence, and they have still given up some goals. Like, not many. I mean, they're still doing their job, but I'm just to me, it's way too early to tell.
And real quick again, before I guess we kind of move on, they have Champions Cup, so maybe Mascherano holding out Messi, or maybe Messi's saying, "Hey, I'm not playing." Maybe once done with the Night Tour Champions Cup, they play Cavalier, which essentially aren't really a team that should strike fear in the hearts of Inter Miami fans. They're their favorite going away, Miami, to move on to the next round of the quarterfinals. So I don't know if that's a lineup thing. I don't think he plays against Cavalier. He may play this weekend against Charlotte, but maybe that's some of those tweaks to the lineup may be done with an eye toward that. So
I'd say you'd probably want him for Charlotte more than you'd want him for Cavalier.
You don't need him against Cavalier.
Exactly.
I feel like we could. Well, I was going to say I feel like we could beat Cavalier, but I don't think so. Henry could. Henry could string together maybe some 11 players and beat Cavalier.
Appreciate it, man. I appreciate the faith. Let's get Scars and Spikes FC.
Those old guys probably
in the chat. Drop me your positions. We'll start building a team.
We got this.
Preseason training camp starts next week. I'll see you all on the pitch.
I'll try to play a better winger than I did in the first media game we played.
Right.
If you miss another tap in from 2 feet out, I have to bench you.
Look, I'm a year removed from that. All right? Last year was a much better performance.
Yeah.
I expect more from my players.
All right.
So, couple of storylines from San Diego, St. Louis. Of course, that's a season opener or the home opener for San Diego. At a 0-0 draw, so not much you could take from that. San Diego 16 shots, though, only one on frame. So, yeah, it's 66% possession. They had really much of the play throughout the night. Couple things want to call out, though, and we'll get to Chico Lozano's injury in a second. I think you guys know what I'm going to say. San Diego, of course, near the Mexican border, so you imagine a number of Mexican fans will be making the trip up from Baja California, Tijuana, those areas to see San Diego FC play. Sort of the underbelly to that is the chant. And we all know the chant. We all know what CONCACAF have been trying to do to stamp that chant out. But unfortunately, it came up on Saturday against St. Louis. The match was stopped. The warning was placed on the screen. And there's a warning saying, hey, if you don't stop, we're going to abandon the match. Unfortunately, that's something that we'll have to monitor because again, that's sort of the underbelly. And San Diego, of course, they have to market to the Mexican fans. They have to, and that's why they try Chucky Lozano to market to them, to have a player that Mexican American fans can identify with. But just gotta get that crap out of the game, man. Just get rid of it.
Yeah, I mean,
It's so unfortunate. We're still talking about
Mikey
this.
Varas, when he came out, I mean, I thought he handled it as best as he could. Shame on those fans. Shame on those fans. This is literally your inaugural home match, and you come in with that kind of garbage. That is pathetic. That is pathetic.
Yeah.
And I know it's not indicative of the entire fan base. It is a select few that think it's okay to say stuff that they don't need to be saying, and that, like, it has been made very clear, like, there will be repercussions. And honestly, I wish the repercussions were a little harder and harsher than they are, but it just cast a really dark cloud over what should have been a really, really cool night. I mean, now the game itself sucked, if we're being honest, but
Yeah.
like, it's their inaugural home match, first match in MLS at Snapdragon Stadium. And this is what you go and do? And it just sucks that has to be the talking point about this. It really does suck. Besides that, Chucky Lozano getting hurt and the game just being, like, very lopsided and not fun to watch, like, that's a different thing. But yeah, it's just irritating, and the game has no place for that crap.
Can I say, though, San Diego, going into the soccer aspect of it,
Sure.
San Diego, I feel like they deserved a couple goals in that game. They were attacking the whole time. They were going forward. They were creating chances, and just nothing happened in the final third. Like, they got some final balls wrong. Some of the shots just wouldn't go in. Like, it was unfortunate. And here's the thing, though. Part of it's also their shot conversion, because from 15 shots, only one was on target. Like, come on, dude. You got to do much better than that.
I feel like we could have better odds.
Well, yeah. And it's, dude, Anders Dreyer was freaking running his legs off, losing his mind trying to make something happen. And he was unlucky. So, look, there are some good early signs for San Diego in the soccer aspect of things. You've got some things right. You can create chances. Great. Yeah. But you got to finish them. You got to put some more on frame. That's got to be your thing now. And the challenge now is, without Chucky Lozano, can you make that happen? We don't know how long Chucky Lozano is going to be out.
Right.
But he's going to be a huge loss for this team if he misses significant time, because he does bring chance creation, but he also brings you shots on goal. He can help you get in better spots to get the ball to players like Anders Dreyer and some of your other attacking players to really, to score. So yeah, I'm curious to see how long his injury is for.
Right.
But hopefully for their sake, it isn't for too much longer.
Yeah, and it's like a hamstring. It's non-contact, so you hope for the best in those situations, but prepare for the worst. Certainly, if you're San Diego FC, and like you had, I haven't seen any indication of the timeline. Maybe the match was just the other day. I'm sure as the physios kind of take a look at him and evaluate what's going on with him, we'll get a sense of the severity of the injury and if it's maybe a week-to-week thing or maybe longer term. But it's disappointing. It's disappointing certainly for San Diego as they look to build that identity in MLS. And Lozano, when you look at him, I mean, he's not an old player, but he's not a young player either. I mean, he's been playing professionally for a while. He's 29 years old. The legs aren't as sound as they were when he was maybe 22, 23, 24. I mean, he's turning 30 in July. So one thing you have to look at too is the playing surface at Snapdragon Stadium, and is it conducive to a player who has been playing his entire career on grass? I think PSV, they play on grass, I'm pretty sure. But for a player that's played his entire career on grass, can he make that? That's a question we have to ask for every single player. But when you think about all the use that Snapdragon Stadium will be getting, the Wave and NWSL, San Diego State, college football, what's it going to look like? And I see this mentioned already. What's it? Excuse me. What's it going to look like later on in the season? Right, the playing surface will it be conducive to players stepping on that field, especially when the season gets toward the end, and maybe you're looking for a playoff spot. So, what are the factors you have to look at if you're San Diego?
You also had to that point, She Believes Cup. The final was played like what 3 days before that. So, and people were already talking like this field's going to look rough. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but you do have to take it into consideration. I mean, look, grass is great, but there's only so many times you can repair a divot. Like, there's a lot of use, So yeah, it's going to be interesting. But I mean, and then back to Henry's point, I think like I say it was just a bad game overall because any game that ends 0-0 when you have that many shots is an atrocity, and it's just frustrating. But it is good sign. I'm not trying to take anything away from San Diego. There are good signs there, absolutely. But there's a lot that went wrong for that team, that club, not just on the pitch, and in every way. There's a lot that it was just kind of a rough day for San Diego.
Right.
And before we move on to Philadelphia, I did want to bring up the other side of this game, which was St. Louis has turned into the turtle team. They are going into their shells and just waiting it out for 90 minutes. It is, park the bus in the goal and pray to God you don't concede. 2 straight games where they have not conceded, but they have also not scored.
Yep.
I don't think that's sustainable, really.
No, not when you don't have defenses passing the ball back to your striker.
Right.
It doesn't really work well.
You wonder how long can that identity, I mean, you already see the fingerprints of Olaf Melberg on this team. How long can this team keep that identity? Do they get to a place where they say, hey, or Melberg, does he get to a place where you say, hey, I got to unloose the shackles, so to speak, and really let this team go? I mean, you saw it. You saw it throughout the match. As soon as they had a goal kick, you see 3-4 players right in the back line, and the keeper would just pass to them instead of booting it upfield. Maybe with a few exceptions, but that's sort of what you're seeing early on.
Very conservative.
Very conservative. And maybe it's just Olaf Melberg just filling things out, or is that the identity that he wants St. Louis FC to have? Because if it is, it's going to be very boring in St. Louis.
Yeah.
So
I feel like it was much better when it was a team that just got the ball from the opposing defender by calling for them. Just like, hey, give me the ball. And they just got the ball basically and then scored. I feel like that was a more fun version of St. Louis.
Yeah.
Go to pass and realize you've made a terrible mistake.
Yeah.
And Dan saying, San Diego, you can't blame the weather.
No, you can't.
Jack, if you're just kind of tuning in off the field at San Diego's home match, they had a chant that was very inappropriate that we all know and we've heard it, and it needs to be out of the game. So anyway, moving on from that, Cincinnati and Philadelphia. This was a big surprise.
Evander scored his first match as an FC Cincinnati player.
He did.
That was
the only thing that went right for
Cincinnati, was it?
So the only thing that went right for Cincinnati.
Ty Baribo hat trick, and a relatively quick hat trick, if we're being honest. And then Bruno Damiani just kind of with the icing on the cake to make it 4-1. But 4-1, Philly over Cincinnati, and Philly is trying their best to make everybody eat their words.
Everybody going to be good this year.
Who would have ever predicted them to win the wooden spoon? It couldn't have been me or anyone else.
Nobody
on this show. This is a surprise, guys. I was not expecting this from a team that really didn't have that much roster investment that early on in preseason, we were like, what are they doing with their roster? Jack McGlynn being gone, moving on from players like Jack Elliott and moving some of these players. And not really, I mean, their biggest signing was Bruno Damiani, and he isn't even the guy that's turning up right now. It's a guy that they'd signed before in Ty Baribo, which he's got, I think it's 5 goals in 2 games.
Right. Golden Boot leader.
That is, that's a lot. And so can Philly kind of ride this? I mean, look, they've already beaten 2 teams that I think we more or less considered top half of the table, top kind of playoff contenders in a sense in the East, in Orlando last week, and then now Cincinnati by a much larger margin. And this is a Cincinnati, mind you, that had pretty much its full squad ready to go. It's best 11 basically. Man, this Philly side came to play.
8 goals in 2 matches that MLS played so far, and has a very small sample size, of course, but you wonder, is it a change in identity, a change in mindset that Bradley Cardinal has brought to this team? Because remember, they start in St. Louis City. They started really well under Bradley Cardinal when he was over there. Of course, you kind of joked about the whole situation with defenders calling for the ball and scoring, but he had obviously tremendous success in year 1 with St. Louis. Year 2, not so much. He got fired. But you wonder, again, is it a little bit of a change of identity? Is it a change of phase for what the kind of play that Jim Curtin wanted? And our players taking to that a little bit more than they did with Curtin. Of course, you have other players that we haven't mentioned. You have other scorers that have been on this team. Kai Wagner. Yeah. You don't forget about those guys as well. If those players can get clicking all at the same time, I think, dare I say, Philadelphia could be a really good team in 2025. But again, tough to make a prediction after 2 matches. But so far, it looks really good for Philadelphia Union as they try to, like we said, prove everybody wrong, including me. They play on Saturday. They play New England in New England, and
which should be a
win. That's a whole other topic. The rest are a whole other topic. We can talk about them another time. But this could be a team that could be getting 3 points or 9 points out of the first 3 matches.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of good points in the chat too. I mean, I agree. Omar is saying it's been 2 games. I don't think the current standings is going to be the same in any way at the end of the season. And I don't know I can't remember who posted it today. I saw it on Twitter, I think. Basically saying that, like, oh, the Eastern Conference is starting to take shape.
No, yeah.
We're 2 games in. We're 2 games in, guys.
34 guys. Come on.
We have a long way to go. And if you've never heard of Seattle and Orlando, there are 2 very, very good examples of why you don't count like the first 16 games in the season.
That summer transfer window, yeah.
There's just, a lot changes in this league. A lot changes. That's not to take anything away, though, from Philly. I mean, I'll give credit where it's due. They're playing really well. And I think there's something maybe underrated about bringing in a guy who favored the kind of, it was almost like high pressing early in St. Louis's time. And then he comes over and he has the crew to be able to kind of replicate it and maybe even do it better. I think Jack said in the chat, they do have a good foundation. We know, we talk about their academy all the time. They are a well-run organization in terms of like making players better. I think they just don't want to spend money. And if you can continue what you're doing right now throughout the season, then that should put you in the talks for not only one of the best academies in MLS, but I'm not going to say in the world, because I mean, we all know that there's some phenomenal ones in Europe, but I mean, it gives a big boost to what Philly is already doing well. And you can't even give an excuse like, oh, they've had both games at home and they whooped Orlando down in Orlando on match day 1. So it's like right now they're on fire. I just want to see if they can stay consistent with it. Relatively consistent.
When's the last time they scored 8 goals in 2 matches? The Union. Let's be honest. We don't have it in front of us. But it have to have been a while. That just seems weird for them to score 8 goals in 2 matches. But
When's the last
small
time
sample
any
size.
team scored 8 goals in its first 2 matches of the season?
Could be a bloodbath up in New England, to be honest with
Oh,
you.
yeah.
When they
I'm
go up
expecting
there.
it.
But it's MLS. And so what's going
Exactly.
to happen is it's going to be 4-1 the other way because that's what, and they're just going to screw everything about everything we just talked about.
I'm going to take Ty Baribo in my fantasy team, and he's going to get a red card in like the second minute.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just my
That's how the
luck.
league works
This is
sometimes.
MLS, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. If this is your first time watching, don't bet. Don't bet on it. Play fantasy. It's free.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, speaking of teams that we shouldn't make too many quick opinions about, Seattle not won the 2 matches. They follow RSL in RSL 2-0. All goal conceded by Nuhu. That's the second time in 2 weeks. Second time that Seattle has conceded an old goal, I think. And then Forza Jago scores in the 79th minute to essentially ice it for RSL. You're kind of a little bit alarmed about RSL after they got outplayed against San Jose in week 1, but then they come home and take care of business against Seattle. Should we be worried about Seattle? I think I know the answer to this, but
Now.
yeah, exactly.
It's one game, guys.
Right.
Look, this is
There's a
MLS.
zombie
The
in there.
regular season doesn't matter. You only have to be good for like 9 games.
Right. No kidding.
You're not wrong.
That's Miami.
Then you only have to lose 2 in the playoffs. Anyway, go ahead.
Right. No, but I say that kind of in jest. I mean, you can't take too much from one match, but this is, if you're the Sounders, you got to look at things to say, hey, we gotta put some wins together. I mean, they host LAFC on Saturday, and they have a short week. They play Cruz Azul one Wednesday at Champions Cup. This is a team where, they every year I feel like they come back, they bounce back, and they're in the mix every single year for MLS Cup in the Western Conference. But now you're going into 2 matches where your top off-season acquisitions, Ariola and Jesus Ferreira, haven't really done anything. And this is just a matter of getting them chemistry. It's just a matter of just them clicking. I think it's the big questions that you have to ask. Again, it's a small sample size, but you have to ask those questions about Seattle here. Just looking at the stats, Ferreira, no shots on goal. He played 21 minutes. Ariola, no shots on goal. He played 45 minutes. So those are your 2 top attacking players, or 2 top, again, offseason acquisitions, really had no effect on the match. So maybe too early to start asking questions about the 2 of them. But yeah, where do you go from here if you're Seattle? I mean,
certainly Jesus Ferreira has done nothing for my rants I went on before the season started about him. I'm just not the biggest fan, but I also, in the same vein that I've given, with every other game that we've talked about here in the first couple of weeks, like, it's too early to really determine how it's going to go, and if you look at this game in particular, this is one of those where the 2-0 scoreline doesn't tell the whole story. The stats were pretty even. I mean, both teams had 11 shots. RSL had 4 on target to Seattle's 3. You had an own goal, right? So you had a mistake. You're playing away, Seattle. Possession
in altitude too.
Exactly.
In altitude.
It was very even, relatively speaking. You just had a team in RSL that squeaked out one more chance if you don't count the own goal. So take that into consideration. Also take Seattle's history into consideration. And I know we've mentioned it. See it in the chat. Zombie Sounders. Like, I am not worried about them at all. Yeah. They will rise from the dead probably in like middle of July, maybe August, depending on how they're feeling in the summer. And they'll do their thing, and they'll somehow end up in like the top 3 in the West.
Yeah, I mean, it's Seattle. I still don't regret picking them to win in the West. Look, it's the same thing that I feel like we're gonna say for every single matchup. This is just 2 games in. for the most part, it's impossible really to tell right now who is going to stay on top or who's going to really be on the bottom. You gotta wait it out a few games. So yeah, and Seattle is still like Atlanta, like Cincinnati, like a lot of these teams. We're still kind of moving out of preseason form. Let's give them a little bit longer before we start handing out verdicts.
You know who really, really needs to hear you say that to them?
Who?
Galaxy fans.
Right.
The Galaxy, they're struggling.
Another injury. Emeriel Garces leaving, I believe, to a hamstring, guys. That's the last thing they needed. Another injury.
2-1.
Maybe they need Dansby Swanson to go sage their training field
for
their
real.
stadium or something. What are all these injuries, man? I mean, you lost Ricky Puig before last season even ended.
Yeah.
and now you've lost Paintsel, and now you've lost Garces, and it's like if you lose anyone else, you're gonna have to start fielding some of your second team players. Like this is desperate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so Vancouver 2-1 over the Galaxy. Of course, they played in Vancouver at BC Place. I was really happy that at the last minute I changed Gabriel Peck to captain my team over Lionel Messi because that's what I had in fantasy. He scored in the 39th minute, so good for him. A little bit of confidence, like something that you really, really want out of one of the three, attacking killer peas, as John Nelson on Soccer Down Here calls them. He's the only one left right now. So to see him get a goal, that's great. But to lose to Vancouver, who have struggled, if we're being nice, it's not a fun place to be when you are the reigning champions. It's different if you struggled going out of the season last year, but you were on the top of the world 3 months ago. 1 month ago, you were before the season started, you were like, man, we're coming in hot. Before Paintsel got injured, you knew Pooch was going to be out, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'll go back to what I said in the preseason. They're going to be fine at the end of the season because once they get Paintsel back, once they get Pooch back, they'll make up what they've lost here in the beginning. Yeah. But for a Galaxy fan right now, it sucks.
Now, and I just wanted to say something real quick. You just brought up, you get Pooch back, you might be good. They really were missing Pooch in that game because you were missing the guy in midfield who could really move you forward no matter what the situation was. And Peck was begging for balls to be played to him, and they just weren't getting to him because Vancouver was able to really overrun the midfield. You had a midfield pairing of Cerrillo and I forget the other guy's name, Sanabria, that really doesn't have that much experience. They're 21 and 24. So, you don't have a whole lot of experience there, and Vancouver was able to really overwhelm them. And the other point is, okay, let's say you do get Pooch back. You're probably the earliest getting him back. What are we thinking? Like August?
Yeah.
Maybe July.
Maybe July if he has, Guzan level, healing. But do you think that he'll be the same? I mean, we have experience with a star player getting an ACL injury, being out for a period of time, and then coming back and kind of being a shadow of himself.
That's a good question and a good point. Sure, LA fans don't want to hear that Peck maybe or Pooch may be a step below what he was before his injury. I mean, that's the nature of ACL injuries, right? Like you alluded to, Joseph Martinez has just turned his career around for the worse. So if you're an LA fan, you certainly hope that that's not the case with Ricky Pooch. On another place we haven't mentioned as well, their off-season acquisition, loanee from Botafogo, Mateus Nascimento, hasn't played yet. He has a leg injury that he's been dealing with, so he has yet to make his debut for the Galaxy. So it's another piece of the puzzle that's missing for the Galaxy. They're not quite at 2022 Atlanta United level as far as injuries are concerned, but
They got a long way to go before
they
get
got a
there.
long way to go before that. So
But they're starting off strong in that regard.
right. Atlanta set a high bar.
Yeah,
Galaxy
a
are
rough
just chasing. So Vancouver, by the way, we'll just say this: Vancouver under Jesper Sorensen, his first season as Vancouver's head coach, 6 points out of their first 2 matches. And again, we'll draw too many conclusions from the first 2 matches of the regular season, but they're at least off to a good start under Jesper Sorensen, their new manager. We'll see if that's sustainable, but it's good to see if you're a Whitecaps fan in the midst of all the news about the sale of the team, possible sale of the team, is it relocating, etc. I know Indianapolis investors are kind of sniffing around the team just in case Vancouver ownership wants to sell to a group that wants to move out of the city. I know some folks are saying, hey, Ryan Reynolds, Vancouver native, should make a bid for it, maybe bring Rob McElhenney along. I haven't seen him connected, but maybe he does. Maybe he makes the Wrexham US version to some extent, but good to see it. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, good to see him at least early on winning, and we'll see if that continues as the season progresses.
I want Vancouver to be successful. I really do.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why, but there's a soft place in my heart for Vancouver. I don't know why. I'd like the team. I think they just do their thing and they don't mess with anybody. They just go play soccer. There's no, I don't know. It's just there's something about them. I mean, of course, like the selling of the team, whatever.
I will say entertainment value is gone with Benny Sartini no longer with the team.
Yeah. There's not weekly quotes coming out from the manager.
I don't feel like Jesper Sorensen is gonna make any remarks about referees being found at the bottom of a river or something like that.
I wish he would. MLS, let's go. Come on.
He needs to hire Vanni Sartini as like his press officer or something like that. Just do his press conferences for him.
Yeah.
I would approve. And I would watch every single Whitecaps match.
Yeah.
All right. So there's other games obviously that happen. I know people have kind of talking about Joseph Martinez, but were there any surprises? And if Joseph was one of them, throw it out there. But any surprises throughout the rest of match day 2?
I mean, no, not really. I mean,
I'll give you one.
Shout out to San Jose. Perfect under Bruce Arena so far, and we knew when he came in it was going to be a culture shock, a culture change, and so far, it's got exactly to plan if you're a Quakes fan. Again, we talk about early sample size, small sample size, but as this team continues to grow, as this team continues to take shape under Bruce Arena, and by the way, caveat, they're playing Sporting Kansas City, who is really a shell of its former self, if we're being honest with ourselves, the way they've been in recent years. They brought on Joveljic, of course, as their top striker. No, he did score. He has scored 1 goal so far. So they're going to look to get him clicking sooner rather than later.
It was a penalty.
From a spot. But yeah, they're absolutely going to look to get him clicking sooner rather than later. As far as any surprises, maybe Houston losing as badly as they did to Miami is a sort of a mild surprise. Columbus is a good surprise. They've won both their matches so far. Orlando bounced back against Toronto, a team many are picking to be a Witherspoon contender. It's kind of wild in Chicago, between Chicago and DC. I don't know. Not real surprises for me, Tyler.
I'll give you
I know
one.
you said you had one.
Atlanta and Charlotte.
Yeah.
It just surprised me. Not the whole game, and we've talked about it on our yesterday, and we'll talk about it probably a little bit more on Wednesday before we preview the weekend. But the second half, it has to be fixed. Taking a step back from the Atlanta part of it and looking at it from an MLS Monday perspective, if I'm Red Bulls, I'm looking at the way that Atlanta has played both of their second halves, and I'm chomping at the bit because we know how Red Bulls wants to play. And we see how Atlanta has become so disorganized in their discipline in the second halves. That's playing right into Red Bull's strength. So that was surprising for me, and I hope that we're not having the same conversation next week about being surprised that
Yeah.
it's continued for a third game. I hope Ronnie Dial is able to nip it in the butt and fix it, but it was surprising. I didn't think it was going to go down that way. I like away game, you can always lose it, but for Latte Loth to not get on the board, even though he had a good first half, Miggy to not get on the board, even though he had a good first half, like it was kind of surprising to me considering how good of matches they had in the first week. But besides that, Philly was the big one for me.
Yeah. Just like the score line, you mean, or
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and just back-to-back weeks of it, right? Like,
right?
I think it's just I thought maybe week 1 was a blip. And like we said a minute ago, week 2 is still too early to make much of a
Yeah.
decision on like, oh, do I take him out of my wooden spoon determination? But right now they're a long way from the wooden spoon. So,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, just the amount of goals that they're scoring is not at all what I expected.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much else to add in terms of surprises. I think we've covered them all. Yeah, for me, mostly it was Philadelphia getting off to the start that they have, and I guess seeing the Galaxy. I mean, we knew that they were coming into the season with some injuries, but I don't think I expected them to go 0 for 2 to start the season. That's concerning. So those are my two big surprises.
Sweet. All right. Well, then moving
Champions
right
Cup.
along, we have a Champions Cup to talk about.
And we've got some really good matchups.
Take us through it.
All right. So let's start. The games start tomorrow. So at 6:30 p.m. we have Cincinnati versus Tigres. Oh, what a game that is!
Under a new manager, by the way, Tigres.
Tigres?
Yeah.
Who's managing them?
They sacked Veljko Paunovic a few days ago, and their new manager, I'm just looking it up, Guido Pizarro is their new
While
manager.
you look that up, Omar, I know. I don't care. It's in the South. It's in the butt.
I've never heard that.
All right,
There's a visual. All right, like you got to get on. Like you got to grab it and fix it. All right, like
Right.
fix that quickly. Yeah.
All right, Tommy.
Henry, don't make that face.
Chill out.
Right.
Nip it in the butt. All right.
I'm gonna continue with the CONCACAF games. So we have
Thank
that
you.
one at 6:30. 8:30 kicking off Pumas against Alajuelense. No MLS teams there, but at 10:30 you have two MLS teams going head to head. LAFC versus Columbus Crew. You got a rematch of last year's Leagues Cup final. You got a rematch of 2023 MLS Cup final. That will be played first leg at a BMO Stadium in Los Angeles. Then Wednesday, 8:30 p.m., you got two games, Herediano versus LA Galaxy. And then Guadalajara against Club America. Again, no MLS teams there, but that's still a big game for Liga MX teams. That's one I will definitely have on my other screen as I watch the Herediano game. 10:30 on Wednesday, you got two games. Seattle Sounders hosting Cruz Azul and Yorgos Yakimakis, who we are all very familiar with. And then also former MLS player Mateusz Bogusz. And then the other game is Vancouver hosting Monterrey. And then finally, to wrap up the round of 16 first legs, Thursday at 8 p.m., Inter Miami hosting Cavalier.
I mean, Miami are, like I said earlier, the favorite to get through. They should have no trouble against Cavalier. Of course, Sissy and Tigres, considering how, of course, Tigres, as again mentioning their new manager Guido Pizarro, a former Tigres player, played with them. Actually, just retired and essentially got named the new manager of Tigres really after his retirement, more or less. So he's taking charge there. So definitely like Tigres' chances against Cincinnati. Herediano, LA Galaxy. Now, the Central American teams, guys, are always tricky. And considering, again, the injuries to Galaxy, and considering, too, that that's away, you have to like Herediano's chances, at least in this first leg, to maybe build a big lead on aggregate and really put LA on the back foot, heading back to the Dignity Health Sports Park. Monterrey should advance against Vancouver. Maybe Vancouver gets a result at home, but I don't like their chances on the return leg. And the Seattle Cruz Azul, same deal. So this set of matches sets up really favorably for the Mexican teams, or I'm sorry, for this first leg. It makes up a little bit better for the MLS teams playing Mexican teams, but I feel like those are teams that can really turn the tables when it gets back to their place. Cincinnati Tigres, I don't really see that being all that competitive. I think Tigres maybe wins away and then closes out at home. I always see Columbus as a really good matchup, as you mentioned, Henry. And then again, Miami should have no trouble against Cavalier. That should be over in the first leg, to be honest with you. Sort of a name your scoreline kind of matchup with or without Messi. So you shouldn't be worried there if you're Miami. What do you guys think?
I mean, yeah, I think the LAFC Columbus one from an MLS perspective is like must watch, period. But I mean, I agree with all your points. I think you have a handful of these that you can probably put some money on and say, yeah, this is a lock, like in leg one to go ahead and wrap it up. But I'm really intrigued by the Guadalajara and Club America match. I think that's going to be really, really fun to watch because it's. I understand like they're going to play multiple times, but when it's in Champions League, Champions Cup, I hate that we've changed the name. There's a little bit extra to it, right? There's a little bit of extra spiciness, so that one will be fun. Don't count out Vancouver. We just got done talking about Vancouver, and I know, like I even said, like last year coming off of it, they were struggling. Yeah, but there's something about them, man. There's something about them. That's the other one that if I'm going to make sure to watch, it's in Champions League. It's going to be that one.
Yeah, I think they'll get a result. But I mean, you need goals if you're Vancouver. You want as many goals as possible, and I just don't see it being maybe more than 1-0, more than a draw. And that plays into Monterrey's hands because they can just as easily flip the deficit and really blast Vancouver from a hostile environment at the Estadio Akron. I think it's where they play, right? I could be getting my Mexican stadiums mixed up. It's the Estadio Akron, right?
I don't know what the name of it is.
Should we fact check?
I know what it looks like.
Beautiful stadium, by the way.
Beautiful stadium, yeah.
Estadio BBVA.
Yeah. Estadio BBVA, that's it. That's it. Thank you, Henry.
Yeah, that's a good one to watch. Vancouver, look, they've improved a little bit in terms of being able to like jump forward with their chances and really move the ball quickly. Pedro Vite has had an amazing start to the season, participated in 3 of their goals so far, 2 assists, and then one that should have been counted as an assist, although it really wasn't. It was that first goal last night where it was kind of like a cross / shot that the goalkeeper like blocks and it lands at at the goal scorer's feet. He just taps it in. But he's been very, very good for Vancouver, creating chances and helping them kind of advance the ball in the final third. So it's a combination of factors that are coming together to make this Vancouver side really interesting. Now, do I think they can really compete against Monterrey? That's we're going to wait and see. But Monterrey is kind of mid-table in Liga MX right now. So I still think it's going to be an interesting matchup. For me,
they also just dropped like 4 goals on who I can't remember who they played in their last match.
Portland.
Yeah.
No. I mean,
Monterrey.
Yeah. In their hang on, I have to go back and look at Liga MX. But because the Monterrey is mid-table, but they're coming off of a really
Santos.
Okay, yeah.
Santos.
Yeah.
Which again, take that with a grain of salt, maybe, but it can happen, especially when you're talking about again Champions League. The tables are maybe elevated a little bit. So anyway, carry on. But
yeah, I mean, last thing I wanted to add is I want to really spotlight the Seattle Sounders Cruz Azul game. I think that's a really, really good one to test Seattle's mettle. They're going to want to, they're hosting. They're going to want to come back from that loss to RSL.
Yeah.
And they're obviously, I mean, this is a game where you got to put it all on the line and kind of go in with everything. You can't afford the luxury of not going all in. You have to try to run up that aggregate score as much as you can because then taking that game back to Mexico, Cruz Azul is at a significant advantage. So I'm interested to see how that one goes.
If you're Brian Smetzer, you have to go a full strength lineup on Wednesday and then Saturday maybe rotate, right? Is that what you do? Or of course that's
I think you have to.
balancing that for all managers, right?
Because LAFC is going to have to do the same thing. They're going against Columbus in Champions League.
Yep.
So both of those teams I'd expect to rotate on the weekend.
Yeah, it's a little different. I mean, it's two MLS teams. It's much different when you're MLS team going into a Mexican stadium, especially the Azteca. So
yeah, have fun.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Sweet. All right. Moving on. Matches to watch presented by Sweetwater. So again, quick shout out to Sweetwater Brewery, their Rowdy Peach IPA, and a variety of other beers that they've come out with. Their IPAs are really good. But this is Matches to Watch presented by Sweetwater Brewery. So I'm going to call on one of y'all. Henry, you go first.
Whoa, it was a 50-50 shot and I won. Well, look.
Youth before beauty, or I don't know, whatever. I don't know.
Sure thing.
I'm already getting a bunch of crap over in the comments about nip it in the butt. So
right.
Yeah, I don't know. You got a shocker with that one, but for me, the one to watch is going to be that Seattle LAFC game. I know we just talked about them potentially rotating, but either way, that is a rematch of the Western Conference semifinals. Two teams that have been among the most competitive in the West for the past, several years. And I expect it to still be a really, really good game. It's two teams that we expect. I remember going back to our predictions, most of us kind of expected them to be near the top of the West. So that's going to be a good one to watch for sure.
I'm going to go. I was going to say Seattle LAFC. That was going to be mine. But I think a really sneaky good one could be NYC Orlando. Yeah. Orlando riding high, of course, after win against Toronto. NYCFC looking to get in the win column after a loss against LAFC. And, of course, that draw against Miami to open the season. I know I picked NYC as the match I'm watching last week, but I'm doing it again. I think this is a real chance for NYCFC, hopefully to take and hopefully avoid dropping further points, because now you have 1 point through two matches. And again, we talk all the time about, want to draw conclusions, but as you go on, these matches could really come back to bite you if you don't take care of business now. So I think this is a great opportunity for NYC to get in the win column against a visiting Orlando team who, again, is riding that high. They got shelled against Philadelphia, came back, kind of took their frustrations out on Toronto, albeit a Toronto team that probably is weaker than a lot of teams in the Eastern Conference. So that's my pick, NYCFC against Orlando, 7:30 kickoff from Yankee Stadium.
For me, I got to say one thing first. For anybody that is, and I understand, like, primarily an Atlanta podcast, but from a neutral standpoint, if you are here watching us maybe for the first time, or you're only watching us for the MLS stuff, you need to watch Atlanta Red Bulls. That is always a spicy affair, always. And Atlanta has always struggled to beat them in the regular season. They've only done it once, but they did do it when it mattered, which was 2018 when they won the cup. So it always gets physical. There's always some shenanigans that happen. That is a really good one. But for the folks who are Atlanta, and I'm not choosing it for them, I'm struggling between two. I'm leaning towards Vancouver again and Montreal, because it's a bit of a derby. It's a Canadian, derby. So there's always a little bit of extra pride to play for there.
Right.
I think Montreal has some stuff to prove. Vancouver is trying to hang on to the momentum that they built already early on. I guess my honorary mention would be Philly and New England, because it, like you said earlier, Sydney, it might be a bloodbath. You might get to watch a murder in real time, or you might get to watch New England just be like, haha, y'all, I screwed all y'all. We're putting them back down in the wooden spoon level. So,
Right.
but no, I mean, there's some really good ones, and they're all sneaky good ones. Like you said, not like a marquee match necessarily, but if you're looking for something to watch this weekend, like those are 4 or 5 really, really good ones. So.
And I'll throw out the Sunday matches too. Miami, Charlotte, LA, St. Louis. I mean, those could be qualified as sneaky good as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, certainly your pick of the litter when it comes to MLS matches this weekend. Week 3, guys. Match day 3 already.
It's almost here. It's
almost here.
Sweet. All right. Well, that pretty much wraps it up for MLS Monday. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Make sure you visit scarvesandspikes.com. Go get all your news, all your opinion, all your analysis. We will have some stuff going out from the training ground this week as well. So yeah, check out scarvesandspikes.com, patreon.com/scarvesandspikes. Come join on there, get in the Discord. We're going to be doing a Q&A probably Wednesday after the Wednesday show. So that'll be for patrons. So y'all keep an eye on that. And then again, shout out to Sweetwater Brewery, the beer sponsor for Scarves and Spikes in 2025. So
good show.
Indeed.
Good show today.
It's a good match day. And I think I actually think next week will be even better.
Yes, it was.
So
Tyler has to check out his Southern idioms.
Yeah, he's got to work on those for sure. We've
nipping in the butt.
Nipping in the butt.
Clip music, it's nipping in the butt. 2 T's.
Look at
nipping in the butt. We're gonna get like banned for saying that word too many times.
Yep.
Wait, let's
see it coming. And we didn't even have Tommy on today.
I know, right? Let's see what this says. Where did the idiom "nip it in the butt" come from? Oh, this is AI answering. The phrase "nip it in the butt" is actually a misinterpretation of the correct idiom.
Oh, okay. And this
from the South, guys. All right, I know. Which means to stop something.
Chat, call him out. Chat, get him.
It originates from the idea of pinching off a flower bud in a garden before it can fully bloom. So, nip it in the butt is not a real idiom and is considered a common mistake. Or part of the Southern dialect.
Yeah.
There you go. Get out, ChatGPT. Oh.
Was that it?
That's